What's up, guys? That's right. Game time once again. Alright, today I am featuring my mono green deck. I've been playing a bunch of that Kenrith Oath deck fairly unsuccessfully, to be honest. I'm winning a majority of games, but the games honestly feel like a struggle a lot of the time. The deck just feels really fair to me. A 5-mana commander that does a lot of groovy stuff in a format where you can do really degenerate things just does not feel up to par. It's certainly nothing on the level of really degenerate cards like Zur, for example. It's not equal to Edric. It's not equal to Nin. It feels inferior to Brea most of the time because it can't really do anything to interact with the board very much. And a lot of the time you just have this big dorky 5/5 out while they do something disgusting and beat you while you're a spectator. And that happened a bunch of games recently and really kind of soured me on the deck. I know Nate has continued to work on it as a non-Oath deck, and maybe he's onto something there. Maybe without the Oath package, it can actually do a little bit better because we were running a bunch of cards based around Oath of Druids, including a bunch of flashback cards, and maybe it's just better as a 5-color control deck that uses all of the Brea elements, plus a little splash of green in the form of Oko, Wrenn and 6, and maybe Sylvan Library. But generally, the deck just feels too fair to me. It's weird to think about that, a 5-color, 5-mana, 5/5 that has all sorts of insane abilities. I mean, maybe it's really good in a Reanimator deck because of the 5-mana reanimation ability is really insane. Although, compared to the other reanimation spells that are present in the format that cost anywhere from 1 to 2 mana, that do kind of the same thing, it's probably too slow and clunky for that as well. So, for the time being, that deck's on the back burner. I may revisit it. Down the road. But I kind of felt like playing some of my more streamlined and better decks recently. So I had a little playing stint with Zur, and that went about as expected, just crushing people while they, tried to do their main game plan through the first 2 or 3 turns, watching me just combo and kill them by turn 4. And then I switched over to Omnath because this deck has a lot of very fun interactive games and had this incredible game against this Blue Wolf Serenade guy who has been playing this commander a number of times. Alela, Artful Provocateur, Esper Commander. It's kind of cool. I mean, obviously, it's a bit of a combo strategy, and I think to really make it work, you have to play with a number of Crusade-type effects to really support the fairies. So they are 2/1s, but the clock is a bit slow in a 30-life format. And if they're able to kill off the commander, then the fairies are really weak and mediocre and are probably not worthwhile. Plus, you have to just cast a bunch of stuff to really get a bunch of them. That said, I mean, it can put a lot of pressure on, particularly against a green deck that doesn't have a ton of flying defense. And unfortunately, I can't keep this draw at all. It's just got 1 land, a bunch of big, expensive things. So I'm going to ship it back for a new 7. And he's going first as well to complicate matters. Sit back, get ready, buckle up. This is going to be a hell of a game. Okay, so this keepable hand, putting Duplicant on the bottom naturally because the rest of the hand is mana. Very glad to see Life's Legacy in my opening hand, depending on whether or not he has counterspells. But this card can often say 2 mana, draw 6, draw 7 through the commander quite early in the game. So I'm going to put Duplicant. I'm a little reluctant to do that just because this is one of my few interactive spells against his commander. I'm not running the green enchantments that turn commanders into garbage, primarily because I just find that I can kind of just outrun most of the generals, and I don't really want to give them extra mana, which is what a lot of those, like Lignify, for example. Actually, I guess Lignify just makes it a tree folk, but there's a one that transforms the creature into a forest. Not too happy about that. I'd rather just kill it with Duplicant. And it's surprising how often that single Duplicant can actually handle the commander multiple times until you get the other weapons of the deck online. I'm just hoping he doesn't have Crypt or Soul Ring, which I have been completely plagued by over the last week or so. It's just absurd. I feel like, I mean, obviously there's confirmation bias in play, but I feel like my opponents have had either one of those cards a good 50% of the games that I've played recently, while I have failed to draw it most of the time. It just feels unfair. So I'm feeling a little salty about that. All right, Sensei's Divining Top. 1-mana artifact, not Soul Ring. Very happy to see that. All right. Oh, Worldly Tutor. I was actually surprised to draw this. I think that I've sideboarded this out, or actually, well, not sideboarded, but taken it out of my paper deck. But apparently it's still in my online version. I think it's just a little bit slow. And it's kind of hard to tutor early because there's a lot of removal. All the things you want to tutor for early, they can kind of just kill off. And that means you're taking a really big risk by skipping a turn. This does not get anything really degenerate. The closest thing to an early degenerate play it gets is probably Jiraga Tree Speaker, which is the closest thing to a Soul Ring that this deck has that isn't a Soul Ring. So, yeah, I've kind of soured on Worldly Tutor a little bit. It should probably come out if I can find something better. I think I'm running the snake, the 4/3 snake, the Serpapard, Prowling Serpapard, the one that gives makes her stuff uncounterable. Mainly because I play my Omnath deck a fair amount in multiplayer when I play in paper, because it's sort of the most fair of my decks. It doesn't use Winnow Orb, and the Serpapard, of course, is incredible in multiplayer because having your stuff uncounterable is amazing. He mulliganed as well, by the way. So he's going to use this little Divining Top during upkeep. And depending on what he does here, I see him play Watergrave and Chrome Mox, which is interesting. And he plays Greater Auramancy. Huh. That's an interesting card to see in his deck. I guess he has an enchantment theme, but it does drop him. It makes sense, of course, right? I would normally pair just tons of artifacts with Alela, but I guess there are some good enchantments as well, like Stony Silence, and I guess he has Chrome Mox. But there's quite a few nasty enchantments that are cheap, and Auramancy protects all of them, so it makes sense why he's playing with this card. It doesn't really affect the board right now, but it doesn't change my play at all. I'm just going to, end of turn, I'm going to Worldly Tutor, and my intention is to play the Jiraga Tree Speaker and Wasteland away the Watergrave, because I think he's a little pinched on mana right now. He'll at least keep his commander off my back for a turn. So I'm going to Worldly Tutor here. You can see the current form of the deck. Hasn't really changed. I don't think I've added anything recently. There hasn't really been anything that felt worthy, at least for 1v1 in the last couple sets. What's the closest thing? I guess Llanowar Tribe has come in recently. Anyone else recognize anything else in here? Looks pretty much the same. Okay, anyway, I'm getting Jiraga Tree Speaker. If you guys see anything that I'm obviously should be playing in Mono Green Omnath that isn't, like a doubling mana effect. I know that they just printed that triple mana guy, which I think is interesting, but feels very, very win more. I think that card is probably worth using in multiplayer, but probably instead of Karn Liberated, because tripling your mana sources, it really does allow you to do disgusting things, even if you don't have Omnath in play. But in 1v1, I think the card is pretty win more, and most of the time I'd rather use the draw creature instead, the force, the Regal Force. Okay, let's untap here. I'm going to play the Jiraga Tree Speaker. Obviously, I'm leading with Wasteland to protect against Daze. Not that he probably has it, and once I see that there's no Daze, I can safely strip away the Watergrave. So I'm hoping this top, and the fact that he led with Cavern of Souls too, I'm hoping the top won't yield any more lands for him for a little while, so I'll be able to get these cards online before his commander comes out. But he's got another land right away, and then he draws the top card, which is a Talisman. So unless I draw an artifact kill or a land kill again, I'm not going to be able to stop his commander. But that's fine. It's not really that threatening right away. Just a little bit of a clock. Wall of Roots. Very, very timely to draw that. That allows me to basically put 4 additional mana into play. Land, Jiraga Jiraga leveled up, and Wall of Roots. It's really, really nice to go from 1 mana to 5 in 1 turn. The Fairway. I had to tutor for part of that. Draw the other one. Without artifacts. All right, so down comes Alela. Pretty much expected this. And the top with Alela is a pretty nice combo. It pretty much guarantees that he can get a fairy at least every turn with it. And that damage will ramp up quickly. Okay, I draw Finn Hornells here. There's no temptation to play that at all. Basically, my plan right here is to just go get 2 more land and then play Omnath. And because I can use Wall of Roots on his turn and I can untap, and even if without drawing another land, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's going to make Omnath a 9/9, which means this Life's Legacy will draw at least 7 cards, provided it's not countered, and that Omnath lives to the turn. So I'm crossing my fingers on that. And one nice advantage of the fact that he is playing this commander means that he probably has to play a critical mass of enchantments and artifacts in order to really abuse it, which reduces the chances of him having spot removal and counter magic, which are the 2 kind of things that Omnath hates. So he's the first fairy, and then he's casting the Divining Top. So he's put 2 more flyers into play, and he draws and gets Isolated Chapel. All right, I'm going to take a little bit of damage here. End of turn. Nice, Utopia Sprawl. So I added a mana at the end of the turn. Omnath's now a 2/2. I can just sprawl down on the land. I'm going to send an Omnath, of course. Good, he chump blocks, which is very handy. And I can pump Omnath up to that aforementioned 9/9. And then post-combat, I'm going to sack it. Draw 7. Oh, God. So disappointing, though. 6 mana sources and the Regal Force. So that's bad. But, I mean, at least I have Regal Force to redraw and draw some more cards next turn. But the pressure is going to build up pretty quickly here. And I was very kind of sad to draw nothing interactive at all there. But at least I do get Gilded Lotus. happy to see that. I'm going to tap Gilded Lotus, cast Nature's Lore. And the reason I'm getting Dryad Arbor here is because I'm intending to use Regal Force next turn to draw cards, and this is an extra card off the Dryad Arbor, so it sort of effectively cantrips it. I should be able to draw 5 next turn. No temptation to cast a Pilgrimage, even though it would have gotten Spell Mastery, just because I don't need some more tap forest doing anything. I'd rather have creatures. All right, Divining Top, yeah. Fairy. And then, at 0 cards in hand, he plays the ultimate bomb in the form of Necro. Not only does that make a 2-1, but he's at 30. And yeah, that's going to really, really complicate things a lot. And unfortunately for me, he only draws 7 exactly, which is sort of the same kind of amateur mistake you often see people make with Sylvan Library. They think, oh, I've got Sylvan Library in play. Well, no reason to take extra damage because I'm only going to play 1 or 2 cards this turn. And then they just miss out on tons of free cards, and then they die with 1,000,000 life later on in the game to card advantage. And Necro, very much the same way. I mean, I don't really know his deck very well, but I think at a bare minimum, if you cast Necro at full life, you should probably draw at least 9 or 10, because you're going to draw inevitable lands, and you can sculpt your hand in a much better fashion, since you can't draw the cards later on immediately when you need them. All right, I'm going to take 4 here, going down to 24. And also he's got lifelink too. All the more reason to take some extra damage. Necro fills his hand up completely. I'm thinking he doesn't have any blue mana available that he can play on counters, but I'm just hoping don't draw Force of Will, don't draw Force of Negation, don't draw Swords. Lots of things here need to not be drawn for me to get back into this game, because if this Regal Force doesn't resolve, I think I'm just a dead man. Sure, I've got 1,000,000,000 mana, but he can block huge Omnath with fairies all day while simultaneously just pounding me in the face. And with Necro out, he's probably going to have an Air Force of 14 to 16 power next turn. All right, drawing Strip Mine is actually really timely, because the one thing I can do here is pinch his mana to mean that he can't play that many cards underneath Necro. So first thing I'm going to do is, there's no temptation right now to play Omnath to draw an extra card, mainly because if I draw 5 and I've spent 5 of my mana on Omnath, I'm not going to be able to really play anything, so I'm only doing it to draw 6, because Regal Force obviously counts itself. This is a draw 5, though, which is really, really powerful. 7 mana, draw 5, put a 5/5 into play. Pretty incredible. Come on, baby. Whew. Okay, well, not the best, not the worst. Oracle's really handy. Get some of these lands out of my hand. The Nature's Claim is good, not because I intend to kill Necro, of course, and I can't anyway because it's got Shroud, but because I can kill these artifacts off. Because, again, I'm going to just go and kill his mana. And getting a recursion card, extremely important, because it's going to allow me to utilize Life's Legacy again to draw more before I get outrun by the Flyers. And Garruk, of course, is more card draw. So, first things first, I'm going to play the Oracle Moldea, see if there's a land on top. Vorinclex. Wow, okay. That's really, really interesting, actually. I can play to this Vorinclex next turn, because it'll allow me to basically play Vorinclex off of all these non-forest lands. If you think about it, Jiraga makes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so I can tap a single forest, and I can actually cast Vorinclex and then tap all of my forests for double, which is really, really nice. It's one of the reasons why all these mana artifacts are in here, not just for acceleration. And that will allow me to use Garruk and draw 7 right away off of it. So, brilliant way to keep up with the Necropotence. And I'm going to strip mine the land, and I'm going to cast the Nature's Claim as well, kill off the Talisman of Dominance, at which point he comments that I have a lot of mana destruction in my deck. And I say, yep, that is how green interacts with stuff, because basically, otherwise you're just reduced to playing dorky creatures, and they kind of get to impose their will on you, and you can't do much about it. So he said, well, most decks can play strip mine, or most the land-based strip effects. And I said, yeah, but I do have quite a bit more than that, and obviously you can see them right here. Okay, well, I'm going to just play the Dryad Arbor, or the Arbor Elf, and my intention next turn is to make a bunch of mana, play the Vorinclex, and then make a ton more mana, and do some naughty things. All right. End of turn, he looks with the top. I'm glad he's only got 4 mana in play. It certainly makes it a little bit less dangerous. And he hits me for a boatload of damage now. This is 8. He gains 2 more life. And post-combat, he draws a card, plays Mox Diamond. And he's going to tap out completely and play a card I have never seen before. Ethereal Absolution. And then he said, I clicked too fast. I wanted to play this pre-combat, and damn, it would have made a big difference, actually, because an extra 4 damage is really, really impactful right now. But that is so vicious. 1, 2, 3 creatures die, including one of my lands, and reduces my damage a lot, and basically puts lethal into play. So you can see here, 3 plus, he's got 18 power in play and Necro, and he's still at 30. Holy moly, this game just got really, really, really difficult. Suddenly on a knife's edge. I have 1 turn to respond to this, and this stupid enchantment is shrouded. So yeah, what the hell do I do? I have no flyers either. I have 1 Vorinclex on top of my deck as well, but this is one thing that's so cool about this Omnath deck, is that you can just often draw your way out of ridiculous situations like this because it's big mana, and yeah, the card draw can arrive at the right time. There's a forest. Okay, that's wonderful. I can go past it with Oracle. Come on, deck. Be something good. Boom. Tooth and nail. Okay, well, that's awesome, but what does it get exactly? What does it get? And yeah, so I need to figure out exactly what I'm going to do here. So looking at my mana, unfortunately I lost the land, I lost Fyndhorn Elves, and I lost Arbor Elf, which was going to make a ton of extra mana because of the Utopia Sprawl. It was going to make 3 all by itself. And yeah, regretfully, I just don't have nearly enough mana to do everything that I want. However, the way that this works out, I can throw a counter on this Wall of Roots, so I don't have to tap anything but the Utopia Sprawl. It allows me to play Vorinclex. You'll see I've got 6 land in play. So you'll see me tap a bunch of land, and then I think for a million hours, about 2 minutes, thinking about what I could possibly get with Tooth and Nail. But I realize I can play a second land off Oracle. That's 14 mana, and if you look, Tooth and Nail plus Entwine is 9, and Garrett Primal Hunter is exactly 5. Now, of course, I did have another option. I could play Eternal Witness, and I could cast the Life's Legacy to sack, I don't know, maybe the Regal Force, or I could just play Garrick and I guess draw 6 off Vorinclex. But yeah, this works out just so perfectly. So here we go. Pay 5. Down comes Garrick Primal Hunter, and I immediately draw 6 off the Vorinclex. What I really want to get here is Mindslaver, plus like a mana artifact. That would be ultimate glory. Come on. Damn it. Just a bunch of mana. Really, really unlucky. Okay, but there's a Reclamation Sage on top. That's a solution, at least, to a Greater Oromancer to kill one of these mana artifacts. But I've got the Tooth and Nail. I do have Mana Vault, but I have decided I'm not going to, because I really don't know how much damage I'm going to take next turn, and I don't really want to play Mana Vault and then be forced to untap it. So even though he has the potential to daze, I don't feel like his deck has daze in it, and I'm just going to tap out here and play Tooth and Nail with Entwine. At which point he says, oh, you go and get the big creature that just kills me, right? And in retrospect, yeah, maybe I should have Craterhoof Behemoth in here. But let me do the math. So I play Behemoth. Behemoth gives you plus X equal to the number of creatures you control, right? That's what it does, I think. Let me check for a minute here. Yeah, that's certainly what it does. So it would come down. It would be, I'd get a second creature, hopefully something big like, I don't know, Void Winnower, or maybe what if I got Kozilek? Yeah, Kozilek's 12/12. So Kozilek would come into play. I'd have 6 creatures. They all get +6/+6. Kozilek and Craterhoof. Craterhoof is what, a 6/6, I think? What the hell is Craterhoof Behemoth? Oh, it's a 5/5. Okay, so it'd be an 11. 11 plus Kozilek is 18. Plus these guys all plus, yeah, I guess it would just be massively lethal. So this was actually really interesting because I've cast Tooth and Nail a bunch of times and I haven't had an instant win in the deck, but I really, really don't like Craterhoof Behemoth most of the time. It does actually enable Omnath to be a trampler as well, so maybe I'm wrong to not play it. And maybe this game is a pretty good indication of that I should probably have the card in the deck, because certainly if you just cast Tooth and Nail with Entwine, you can win on the spot against a 30-life opponent. The card may belong in here. So valuable lesson, I think. I still need to think about it and figure out what I would take out to put Craterhoof Behemoth in. You guys are welcome to post in the comments if you think it's worth putting in the deck. But it's always kind of felt like a win more card. I think I might include it in multiplayer, but in 1v1, it just feels like at the point when you're casting Craterhoof Behemoth, you've probably already won, except for these rare fringe cases where, I don't know, your opponent has tons of creatures in play and you need to play on the defensive with the card. So that said, it resolves. What do we get? So these are all the options right now because I don't have Craterhoof Behemoth in play. I'm going to give you guys a bit of time to think about the situation. Keep in mind he's got, you can see this enchantment has Shroud. He has 18 damage in play. I'm at 16. And I don't have the ability to give haste to anything. So what is the play? What is the play here? All right, time's up. My choices were Duplicant to kill off the commander. That shrinks down his guys by +1. And Void Winnower. Not only a giant 10-power creature underneath the enchantment, but it prevents him from replaying his fairy guy and smashing me for a bunch of damage. And it probably shuts down a huge range of other things that he could play, including Signets and Wrath of God effects and counter magic and a bunch of other things. So these 2 cards seem like the right choice to me, and that is what I'm going to get. And there's a Thran Dynamo on top now. Stick that over there. It's funny how it makes the window so giant. All right, so they come down. Obviously, I kill off the fairy. And I get to attack here since these fairies can no longer block because they have even cost of 0. That is really nice too. The fact that it prevents the fairies from blocking means that I can attack back for a ton of damage next turn too. All the more reason to play the Void Winner. And I just throw away the forest. I'm leaving Prismatic Vista in my hand because I may need it to reshuffle in an emergency if there's just junk on top of my deck, even at the cost of 1 life. So it goes back to his turn, and he thinks for a second and realizes he can't cast his commander. He can still hit me for 10. Down to 6. This game is still super, super close. If he has Time Walk in his deck, I'm just dead. And he casts Imperial Seal. So now he's at 21. And I did the math here, and this is actually, it's lethal. Even without the Skull Clamp's extra damage. So that's pretty awesome. And he casts Ponder to get the card, since I imagine it doesn't have much of a range of things he can cast. And then he taps all of his mana, all but 2, to cast Time Twister. Oh, glorious. Look at my hand, how junky it is. The fact that he's down to just 2 mana post Time Twister means that I pretty much have the game here. And look at this, off the Time Twister. Mindslaver in my hand when my opponent has Necropotence. And without even me having to play the card, he realizes he's pretty screwed. There's no way around the incoming lethal damage. And he concedes the game, and we pull it out on the turn before he was going to wipe me out. I just love this deck. I love these situations where you're facing down lethal in 1 turn. You have 1 big turn and 1 major decision to make, and that 1 turn involves drawing a ton of cards, often cycling through Omnath a couple of times, drawing half the deck, and drawing into something immediately impactful that wins you the game, like the Mindslaver, or in the case of this game, Duplicant/Void Winner to take him out and claim the victory over Blue Wolf Serenade. Hope you guys enjoyed that game. I'm probably going to be playing the Omnath deck some more, and hopefully I've got some other good games on the agenda. So look forward to that, and see you guys soon. Take care.